Don't know about you lot, just when after you've spoken to that mum, yeah, everything's kind of in perspective now, isn't it? You know, I mean, I've got an 18-year-old. The idea I didn't know if my 18-year-old was being tortured and starved in a tunnel or was dead. I mean, whoa, those are my two choices right now. I mean, she's gone off to uni. I'd have to walk past her empty bed. That's bad enough when you've got an only child. But I mean, it kind of puts everything in perspective. Some silly, stupid, inane, ignorant students doing their stupid demos. Oh, just do one, the lot of you. I'm so fed up. And also Gary Neville, you along with the other Gary Lineker, you can do one as well. He's blamed angry middle-aged white men flying their Union flags, flying their England flags for dividing this nation. No, I'm pretty sure they're not the problem. I think they're probably part of the solution, Gary. But let's talk about this with Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, who joins us now. He's a senior fellow at the New Cultural Forum and an all-round very sensible fellow. Very, very good afternoon to you, Rafe.
Great to be with you as always, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. I so appreciate you taking your time. Gary Neville, I mean, I just thought he was kind of an angry middle-aged white man himself, but I don't know why he thought that it was sensible to do a video in the wake of the Manchester synagogue attack in which 2 people died and 3 people in hospital, and caused terror to the Jewish community and brought shame, I think, on our country. That he thought, I know who's the problem, who's to blame for division in this country. It's people putting up Union and England flags. Why would anyone think that, Rafe?
Yeah, I mean, he seems to be competing with Lineker for the title of most obnoxious Gary at the moment. It's deeply insensitive to say it when he said it. It's deeply offensive also to the Jewish community to say that they are intimidated by seeing the Union flag. He mentioned that there were Union flags close to the Jewish community.
How outrageous!
During the pro-Israeli or the Jewish marches through London, you saw the Union flag and the Israeli flag side by side, something you didn't see in the Palestinian marches. I was in Belfast last year, and if you go to the Republican areas, you see the Irish flag flying alongside the Palestinian flag. If you go to the Loyalist areas, the Union flag flies alongside the Israeli flag. Yeah. We need to understand precisely where loyalties lie here. We know where the problems lie. You know, almost every one of the most major terrorist attacks in this country have been committed by the children of asylum seekers who come here from war-torn Islamic countries. So you can look at Southport, you can look at Manchester Arena, Manchester Synagogue, London Bridge,
Manchester Arena. It's extraordinary. Across the board, almost all of the attacks in this country are committed by people, Islamist extremists. Almost all the people on the watch list are Islamist extremists, and almost all of those committed attacks are the children of or themselves migrants from particular countries where we've imported this terrible fascist ideology. I mean, do you think people are finally waking up to that?
Look, I don't think.
If not Gary Neville?
I don't think they understand quite how serious this is. You know, there are at least 45,000 people on the MI5 terror watch list, probably closer to 50,000 now. Between 80 and 90% of them are Islamists. To put that in context, today's October the 7th. We have more people on our terror watch list than the size of Hamas on October the 7th when they launched their offensive against Israel. It's a larger number than the size of the ISIS army in Iraq when they launched their offensive in 2014. There are 4.5 million Muslims here. Look, the majority of them are well adjusted, and that's to be celebrated, and they're integrated. But 1 in every 100 Muslims in this country is on the terror watch list. And polling shows that one in 100 Muslims is on the terror watch list. Now, to put that into even more context, polling shows that 9% of Muslims, still a minority, but 9% identify as being Islamist or being extremist and radicals. 9% is around 350,000 to 400,000 people. Yeah. So when people try to dismiss all of these terror attacks as being, oh, it's only a fringe minority of the population, it's not a fringe minority, maybe a minority, but these are sizable numbers of people we're talking about. And with the Muslim population planning to essentially, demographers believe they'll possibly double or more in the next 25 years, you're going to get to a point where actually the size of the terror watch list will be larger than the size of the full-time British Army. It's already half the size of the full-time British Army. And if you look at the number of people who claim to be jihadis, it's larger than the size of the American army. Yeah. These are real discussions which we're not having in this country. We have a government that won't even use the word Islamist when referring to the Manchester synagogue attackers. You have people like Gary Neville trying to deflect blame onto decent white British patriotic people in a snobbish attack on the white working class. There is a real issue in this country. The government has agreed to increase defence spending from between 2.5% to 5% for external threats. What are they doing for the domestic threat, which I would argue is just as strong as the external threat, arguably even stronger? We can't keep our heads in the sand. The first duty of any government is to protect the nation and its people. This is a complete dereliction of duty by the Labour Party. People in the media should be pointing this out rather than trying to turn attention onto the white working class.
I mean, every single word, Rafe. Speaking sense. I'm sure people are cheering at the radio and at the computer screens right now. But this is the thing. I'm sure at this point I have to say, oh, no, it sounds terribly racist and bigoted and Islamophobic, Rafe. But you're just saying facts, and these are the facts. And again, is it not a good idea that we acknowledge and accept some facts? And again, polling again and again, telling us what a lot of particularly young Muslims, pretty young second-generation Muslims in this country believe. But also, by the way, we've got an awful lot of white British, young sort of left-wingers who absolutely have signed up to this mad ideology as well and are supporting it, and consider the people who follow this ideology, not the religion, the political ideology, as victims in some way who need to have protests for themselves. And on a day like this, on October the 7th, when we're marking the 2nd anniversary of this massacre, do you think we have, because I like to think we have now passed a turning point. I've been talking about this stuff since about 2000. I was well aware of lack of, we want to talk about integration, issues like that as well in a few moments with you as well, well aware of it from working on a local paper in the East End of London, way back in the 90s. Do you think that there has been a turning point in this country where shouting racist and bigot and Islamophobe and fascist at people who point out A, facts, and B, uncomfortable truths about our society and the lack of integration and the threat to mainstream society, that actually that no longer works anymore, and people are insisting that this is dealt with, and that they don't want to look back in anger when there's a terrorist threat. They don't think it's acceptable that we deal with attacks on a Jewish synagogue with more security for synagogues, or attacks on a bridge, more bollards on bridges, and an attack in an airport. Oh, now we can't carry water or our laptop or whatever it is, or have to take our shoes off for security at an airport. That actually we want the root problem dealt with and possibly removed, rather than we all just learn to live with it.
Yes. Have you noticed also that the political class have stopped saying that diversity is our greatest strength?
No, not Labour. They're still saying it.
You couldn't go through a month without a mayor or police commissioner saying that. But of course, the people can see right through it now. They know what's going on. And I think Southport also was a key pivotal moment where you had the Prime Minister calling people criminals before they were even arrested or charged or convicted, calling them far-right thugs, and they saw elderly pensioners, they saw old ladies and aunties in those protests. The British people for too long were afraid of speaking up in defence of their country, in defence of their identity, for fear of being called far-right, for fear of being called racist. But now those words are meaningless, and they're not standing for it anymore. The British people have been abandoned by the political class, abandoned by the media class, abandoned by leaders like Gary Neville and others, and they've taken it upon themselves now to stand up for themselves. That's why you're seeing flags being flown, for example. They're not being flown in some sort of act of bombastic jingoism. They're being flown almost as a sign of distress.
I was going to say desperation. We're still here. Can I very quickly play you a clip of what Robert Jenrick had to say? This was a recording which I think the Guardian think is a gotcha. I'm pretty sure he probably gave it to the Guardian himself about a visit to a Birmingham ward of Handsworth earlier this month.
In Birmingham the other day to do a video on litter, and it was absolutely appalling. It's as close as I've come to a slum in this country. But the other thing that I noticed there was that it was one of the worst integrated places that I've ever been to. In fact, in the hour and a half that I was filming with news there, I didn't see another white face. And that's not the kind of country I want to live in. I want to live in a country where people are properly integrated. It's not about the colour of your skin or your faith. Of course it isn't. But I want people to be living alongside each other, not parallel lives. That's not the right way we want to live as a country.
Rafe Heydel-Mankoo. Did Robert Jedrick say anything wrong there?
Spot on, and bravo to him for saying it. And I hope he did actually leak that to The Guardian himself. Look, we know from all the evidence that these segregated communities, Muslims who live in those communities, are more than twice as likely to be extremist. These segregated communities often act like, sort of petri dishes for the cultivation of cultural practices that we would find completely abhorrent in our culture. You see that with forced marriage, with cousin marriage, honor killings, acid attacks. Of course, we've had the rape gang scandal as well. So much else that we would be completely horrified by the subjugation of women. We also know from books like Ed Hussein, who wrote the book Among the Mosques, that white men aren't welcome in certain areas in these segregated communities. That's why also you're not seeing white faces, because white people are scared to go. We also know from other studies that police often have to contact community leaders to arrange a time when they can visit these communities. Basically, we're creating Muslim settlements here, which are often led by Muslim clans from their homeland countries.
With self-appointed leaders.
Trying to recreate politically and territorially their own system of government with Sharia courts. These are descending into ethno-nationalist silos. There's a reason that their property prices are increasing in the southwest of England. That's because of white flight out of many of these cities going in. We are becoming increasingly not a United Kingdom, but a United Nations, and we cannot allow that in this country.
Really appreciate you joining us for that. Very hard-hitting words. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Just a brief response from Russell Quirk listening to all that. He's a Reform councillor.
God, he's good, isn't he?
Isn't he?
He's spot on.
Nailed it. I'm sorry, but we need people to be saying this stuff.
And these facts are really uncomfortable. But isn't it time that we debated facts? And then try and provide a solution to the problems that relate to those facts?
I'm just going to pretend I'm working at the BBC and just look shocked and horrified and call everyone a racist.